Welcome to the Park Live podcast. My name is Mike. I'm a travel agent that specializes in all things Disney. Today's episode 47 of the Park Live podcast. And today's topic is the Introvert's Guide to Walt Disney World. This topic was inspired by a very good friend of mine who suggested this topic, and I thought it would be a great one to tackle. Full disclosure, I am not an introvert. I am a crowd loving person. I'm the kind of guy who likes to go Black Friday shopping just to people watch. So, again, full disclosure, this is a topic that is not near and dear to me as far as having to deal with this. So I'm kind of opening the cupboard doors here. This is new territory for me. My hope is that the information I share is helpful to those of you that are introverted or maybe not necessarily introverted and shy like, but maybe handling large crowds is something that is challenging for you. So I'm hopeful that some of the tips and suggestions that I provide will help you. If you've been to Disney before and you are introverted or struggle with crowds, I'd love to hear comments from you if the things I've shared are helpful, if any of them you've used in the past, if any tips and suggestions that you have that I didn't mention would help the next person. Please share. This is a community for all of us to be able to help one another out. As I said, I am a travel agent. I specialize in Disney. I would love to work with you and your family on booking your next trip. But if I can make your next trip that much more enjoyable with this information, I've done my job. So, again, this is our introvert's guide to Walt Disney World, how to maneuver Disney with a vacation. If you are either introverted in any way, struggle with crowds, any of that, I'm going to just probably say introverted to encapsulate it all in one word. First thing first is to pick your days and time of year on your trip to help minimize the crowds and thus maximize your experience, minimizing your struggles with crowds. So avoid holidays is probably the most obvious tip I can give you. The week of Christmas, the week of New Year's, the week of Thanksgiving, the week of Easter, spring break, any of those periods of time, you're going to see larger crowds. So you want to keep that in mind. Avoid special event periods of time. 3 or 4 times a year, Disney World has a Run Disney event with marathon, half marathon, 10K runs, things like that. Draws larger crowds. You may want to avoid that. There are certain weekends, especially in the first 3 to 4 months of the calendar year, every year, that there are cheer or dance events. So there's hundreds, if not thousands, of families there for cheer or dance competitions. Historically, Magic Kingdom Park on Mondays are always the busiest day there. The thinking is that a lot of people traveling into Florida from wherever in the country travel on Sunday, making Monday their very first park day, and most people like to hit the Magic Kingdom on their very first park day. So Magic Kingdom on Mondays might be a time to avoid that park. Epcot has festivals at different times of the year. The Festival of the Arts is usually January into early February. The Flower and Garden Festival usually runs March through early June. The Food and Wine Festival typically runs August into early November. And then the Festival of the Holidays runs from the day after Thanksgiving through the day before New Year's Eve. Epcot on weekends, in particular during festivals, can be a busier time. A lot of the locals who work Monday through Friday that want to enjoy the festivals will go on the weekends. So keep that in mind. There are other factors when it comes to crowd sizes and time of year, but those are just some of the ones I wanted to point out to help you think about. Use the My Disney Experience app. It's free to use, it's very helpful. You might be wondering, well, how the heck does that help me if I'm an introvert? Well, first off, you can look at wait times for the rides. Standing in a line can be challenging for all of us, but if you struggle at all with crowd sizes, wanting to know which rides have shorter wait times might give you an advantage to get on those rides without being consumed by so many people. You can mobile order food at all of the quick service sites. That helps expedite the food. You're not sitting in crowds or standing in lines longer, so you can take advantage of that. You can also look at the different show times for different attractions, shows, parades, fireworks, any of those things that you might want to enjoy. You can look at the app to see when they're taking place. This next one is probably one of the most important things, and that is to know where you can find quiet space in the parks. I mean, I could easily tell you to take a break and leave and go back to your resort, and we'll talk about that momentarily. That isn't always the easiest thing to do. Now, I'll give you a couple of tips about different places within the four parks. If you have suggestions, by all means, share them in the comments, please. In Magic Kingdom, there's a garden area by the Swiss Family Treehouse that is somewhat quiet, a little less traveled, a little less congested, a good place to go. That's certainly an option. You can get on the train and just ride the train. Yes, there are people on it, but you're not packed in with a bunch of people, elbow to elbow with you. And you get some fresh air moving, enjoy the scenery, that sort of thing, something to relax, enjoy. At Epcot in the World Showcase, if you go over to Japan, they have beautiful gardens and koi ponds, usually a very serene and quiet area that you can enjoy and get a respite from the hustle and bustle of the crowds. Hollywood Studios is a smaller park in general. There's not a lot of quiet space, but just kind of serene. Echo Lake, which is as you walk down the main strip towards the Chinese Theater, it's to your left. It's right out in front of the Frozen Sing Along building. There's seating around the lake area there that you can just enjoy some quiet time. At Animal Kingdom, if you go on the Maharaja Trek, you can see some animals. You're walking in a pathway. Honestly, a lot of people avoid those areas simply because they want to go to the next ride, the next ride, the next ride. So that is a great place to escape some of the crowds, enjoy some of the animals, some of the nature, and some peace and quiet. I did mention resorts. And so think about the location of your resort and how you can possibly take advantage of different features, functionalities of the resorts to make it the best experience for you. First and foremost, staying at like the Contemporary Resort or the Grand Floridian Resort, you can take a walking path to the Magic Kingdom, thus eliminating a public transportation setting with a lot of people. Very helpful. You could stay at what I call the Epcot Resort. So you think of Boardwalk, the Swan and Dolphin, Beach Club, Yacht Club. Those afford you the ability to walk not only to Epcot, but you could also take walking paths to Hollywood Studios. Again, avoiding the congested public transportation that is free within the Disney bubble. Get away from the crowds, enjoy the scenery, get some fresh air while you're walking. All of those things are helpful. Another option might be to get into one of these Skyliner resorts. Now, the Skyliner resorts are traditionally Pop Century and Art of Animation, Caribbean Beach Resort, the Riviera. Now, you could consider beach, yacht, and boardwalk Skyliner resorts because they're in walking distance to the Skyliner hub on the backside of Epcot. But a Skyliner resort gives you transportation to two of the four parks in a Skyliner. Even during the busiest times, your gondola might have 6 to 8 people in it. Yes, it can be a little congested, but comparing that to riding one of the buses with 50 to 100 people in it, or the monorail packed in with people, it's much more enjoyable. You can also consider the time of day that you go. If you don't go right at rope drop, and I'm going to get into that here shortly, there are fewer people, and it's likely you might be able to be in a gondola by yourself or just with your family members. So another option to consider. Bring headphones with you, whether they're noise canceling headphones or headphones where you can listen to music that you're playing to kind of get away from the ever ongoing noise of crowds, of attractions, of whatever. You can kind of get into your own headspace, if you will, with headphones playing music that is soothing and enjoyable to you, that fits your needs and your interests. Know the priorities that you have at the parks and what your must do's are. Um, Again, I'm not an introvert, so please bear with me. I'm trying to think through this the way I would imagine it would be as an introvert. The longer you're there in the park with the crowds, I guess would be the harder it gets. You may have peaks and valleys of how you manage that, but my suspicion is the longer you're there, the harder it gets on you. So getting your must-dos, the things that you really, really want to see and do, getting those done early in your park day may be advantageous to you so that if you need to get away from the park and the crowds for a while, go back to your resort, you can do so. And you've knocked out the things that are most important to you to do. Individual experiences within the parks versus either crowd experiences or interactive or crowd involvement experiences is something to consider. And I thought about this for a while and tried to figure out what would be examples of what in the heck I'm talking about. The simple one for me from a crowd involvement would be at Magic Kingdom, the Mike Wazowski laugh floor. It's in an auditorium, so there's seating. Now I will tell you that there's plenty of leg room, typically not elbow to elbow piled in with people. So that part of it isn't bad. However, randomly, depending upon where you're seated in that auditorium, you might by default become part of the show. They've got a camera that will pan down on a certain person, a spotlight shoots on them, your image is projected up on a screen for everybody to see. They may ask you to be involved with the show. That can be something that's very intimidating to people that are more introverted, less social, struggle with crowds, what have you. So to me, that's a crowd interactive environment, show, attraction that you might want to avoid. As far as individual experiences go, I think of the teacups. You're going to sit in a teacup by yourself or with your family. They're not going to make you sit with strangers. So you can get some breathing room on a ride. The Tomorrowland Speedway, they're not going to put somebody else in the car with you. You're going to be able to get in that car, drive the track on your own, give yourself 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10 minutes, however long that ride takes you to kind of get away from people. So think of those attractions as individual experiences versus crowd and or crowd involvement experiences. Um, Plan non-park activities that will help you manage through your day. At Port Orleans Riverside and at Fort Wilderness Lodge, they have carriage rides. You can do those individually. I think they will hold up to 4 or 5 adults. So you could have a small party with you. It's about a 20-minute horse-drawn carriage ride. You get away from the hustle and bustle of Walt Disney World. Very serene, very relaxed, very enjoyable. All of the resorts have walking paths. They want people to be able to get out and exercise if they need to. You can kind of get away from the crowd and get on a path and walk and let your mind decompress from the crowds that you've experienced within the parks. You can take a boat ride. Several of the resorts, Port Orleans, French Quarter, and Riviera have boats that will take you to Disney Springs. Saratoga has a boat. You've got the boat resorts around the Magic Kingdom. You can just get on a boat, decompress. Yeah, there might be 10, 15, 20 people on the boat, but it's not a jam-packed experience. You get the fresh air off the lake water. Very relaxing, very enjoyable. Enjoy the pool at your resort. Now, let's talk about that for a second. I probably have this written down in another spot on this piece of paper, and I'm sure I'll circle back to it. But several of the resorts have multiple pools. They'll have a main pool that's closest to the food court, bus transportation, all that. Largest, busiest, most hustle and bustle pools. Several of the resorts have smaller, what I'd call almost satellite pools, depending upon how large the property is. Caribbean Beach Resort comes to my mind. A massive property, a lot of space to walk. They have smaller pools that are less crowded. They're typically just a pool. They don't have water slides and some of the other fun features that children might enjoy. So, getting to one of those, again, what I call satellite pools, sometimes I've walked by those and I could have the pool all to myself. Plenty of room to spread out, enjoy, whether you're just lounging in a chair or want to dip your toes in the water or cool off by hopping in. Not a lot of people in those satellite pools, so you can kind of get away and enjoy some of that. Um, you can go on over to the Animal Kingdom Lodge. I did this a couple of trips ago. Took a bus over there, went inside, massive lobby, atrium area. Not a lot of sound, not a lot of noise. Yes, there's people in there, some talking, but they've got giant rocking chairs. In the wintertime, they've got some fireplaces. You can go find some outdoor seating that you're facing the savannah and maybe see a few of the animals roaming around. Very tranquil, very enjoyable. Avoid crowds. Probably thinking, well, duh, this is what you're talking about. But specifically, if you're at Magic Kingdom and you're a fireworks fan, I mean, look, you don't have to be extroverted to like fireworks. But as an introvert, avoiding the crowded areas for happily ever after. Along Main Street, right in front of the castle, it's packed at 9 p.m. or 9:20, whatever time the fireworks show is. So identifying a more attractive area to watch the fireworks. Behind the castle in Fantasyland by the carousel, there's usually fewer people. I've watched the fireworks from over in Adventureland and Frontierland over by Big Thunder Mountain in that area. Very few people. Yes, you lose out on the projections on the castle and Main Street, but you're getting away from crowds. And not only are you getting away from crowds during the show, when the show ends, you're not getting amassed by thousands of people trying to either flood out of the park or flood back through Main Street to get to a ride. You're in an area and can get to the next ride pretty easily or avoid crowds as they're walking through Main Street. The Festival of Fantasy Parade. Love the parade. Again, introverts, extroverts, we all love the parade. Knowing different places where you can watch it, where maybe it's a little less crowded. Main Street is going to be crowded. People just traditionally think of that. I mean, if you've ever watched the Christmas parade on television, all of the shots are from in front of the castle or along Main Street. So head over by Big Thunder Mountain, over by Tiana's Bayou Adventure, where the parade first starts. Yes, there will be people that line up there, but there won't be two, three, four people deep, elbow to elbow jammed in. You can find space there and get some breathing room. The parties, Halloween party, Christmas party. Pros and cons. There are fewer people in the Magic Kingdom for either of those parties than there typically is on an average Magic Kingdom day. So the advantage to doing a party is fewer people in, which means there's more space to roam. However, the parties will get very congested in certain spaces. Main Street and the castle, packed. Trick or treating, the trick or treat sites, people will be in those lines to get candy. But you can certainly move around the parks pretty easily, around the park, Magic Kingdom, pretty easily during the parties. You just have to know where those crowded areas are and avoid those. Likewise, Magic Kingdom itself is a great place to go on a party day because the park closes at 6 p.m. to non party guests. So a lot of people avoid Magic Kingdom on a Halloween party night or on a Christmas party night. It's a great time for you to be at the Magic Kingdom. The last one, and this is a tough one because I'm a massive proponent of this, and that is rope drop. Rope drop is the idea of when the park first opens, massive people getting there early before quote unquote rope drop so that they can flood to the rides, get on them, and enjoy them before the park gets crowded. Now, there's a couple of things here I want to comment on that. First off, quote unquote rope drop, if you're staying on property, you're getting onto the rides 30 minutes before non resort guests. So at the Magic Kingdom, anybody can come in, resort guest, non resort guest, about an hour, hour and a half before the official park opening, up and down Main Street. Resort guests can get into Tomorrowland and Fantasyland usually 45 to almost 60 minutes early. It's a change. It used to be that you queued up in a big long line with thousands of people piled together right up until 30 minutes before general population park entry. And then the massive resort guests would be flooding to lines. Now they let you into Tomorrowland, they let you into Fantasyland well before 30 minutes, and you can get in line for whichever ride you want to do. Just keep in mind, you're still getting there with a lot of people all at about the same time. Rope drop might not be something you want to do. Maybe take a relaxed wake up call in the morning, go get breakfast at your resort. Think about this. So thousands of people are leaving that resort at 7 a.m. or 6:30 a.m. or 7:30 a.m. to go rope drop one of the parks. 8 a.m., 9 a.m., park food court is pretty vacant because people have already left to go to the parks. You can get a nice casual breakfast. You're now not getting on a jam-packed bus or jam-packed monorail or jam-packed Skyliner because everybody's already gone to the park. 10:30, 11 o'clock, casually go to the park. Park entry is smooth because everybody's already in, and your entry is much smoother. So something to think about that maybe rope drop isn't necessarily the best thing for you to do as an introvert. There's another one that I don't think a lot of people think about, but certain times of year, each one of the parks, Magic Kingdom, Epcot, Hollywood Studios, not Animal Kingdom, but those first three, will have Disney After Hours events. It's a special ticketed event. It costs about the same price as a daytime admission ticket, and it runs from park close till about 1 a.m. So it's about 3 hours in length. Now you can get in earlier than park close at 10 p.m. I think you can get in about 7 p.m. So you could get about 5 hours total. But at 9 p.m. when Epcot or Hollywood closes, 10 p.m. when Magic closes, daytime guests are shepherded out of the park. That's the Disney After Hours guest. You'll have a special wristband on. You have the run of the park for those couple, 2, 3, 4 hours. Very few people there. Again, it's about the same price as the daytime. So fewer people, shorter lines, less crowded attractions. And no matter what time of year it is, it's cooler, right? 10 p.m., even in July, is cooler than 4 p.m. in July. 10 p.m. in November is much cooler than 4 p.m. in November, and so forth and so on. So that's something to think about. Let's talk resorts for a moment. Resort atmosphere. You might want to look at how big each resort is and maybe consider a smaller resort, one that has fewer rooms, which means fewer people. Um, if your budget can support it, you might want to skip the value resorts. First off, those resorts sell out first because they're the most affordable and available to more people from an economic range. Secondly, if you happen to be there during a cheer event or a dance event, the value resorts typically house those families with little cheerleaders, little dancers, and they're pretty rambunctious out in the courtyards and what have you. So finding a smaller resort, fewer people, smaller in size, is very advantageous. I mentioned this a little bit ago, but eat at off times. Breakfast from 7 a.m. to 8, 8:30, the food courts are going to be pretty full. Dinner time between, say, 5 p.m. and 6:30, 7 p.m., the resort restaurants are pretty full. So if you can manage your food consumption around those times, you can get a smaller crowd size in the restaurants at your resorts and get a little more peace and quiet, enjoy your meal, and kind of decompress from maybe a busy park day. I mentioned this earlier. Enjoy these smaller pools. I call them satellite pools. Caribbean Beach Resort is probably the best example of that. They have the big pool right by the main building, but then they have smaller satellite pools scattered around the property. You can enjoy those pools with far fewer people. And I also mentioned this, all of the resorts have walkways. Enjoy a resort walk while you're on your resort. Very serene, very quiet, usually beautiful landscape. You might see some wildlife. You can just kind of escape the craziness that the parks are for a little while. Now, the last thing that I want to touch on when it comes to the introvert's guide to Walt Disney World, and this is going to be one that I'm going to set aside finance, okay? Because what I'm going to talk about costs money. Can't dive into everybody's budget and what you can and can't afford, so you'll have to factor that in. But if you can do the Lightning Lane multi-pass, if you can do Lightning Lane single pass, or even better, and this one is the most financially strapping, if you can do the Lightning Lane Premier Pass, it will help you avoid crowds. When my family was Disney World just 2 weeks ago, there were 8 of us, 7 adults, and then an infant. We did buy the multi pass at Magic Kingdom, at Epcot, and at Hollywood Studios. Yes, it was, $29 per person at Magic Kingdom. I think it was 27 at Hollywood, and it might have been closer to 20 or 22 at Epcot. So added up, absolutely. But we got 7 to 10 rides at each of the three parks through the multi-pass system, which in most instances we badged in and pretty much walked right on. Worst case, we badged in and maybe waited 10 to 15 minutes in a smaller, shorter line with fewer people. So, again, setting budget aside, if you can swing it, multi-pass will help you enjoy more attractions without having to stand in longer lines. Single pass is focused on Tron and Seven Dwarfs Mine Train at Magic Kingdom. It is Guardians of the Galaxy at Epcot. It is Rise of the Resistance at Hollywood Studios. And it is Flight of Passage at Animal Kingdom. All of those are major attractions that draw large crowds. If you can afford it, again, it's a great way to cut down on your wait time, smaller line, less people in the line, a little more enjoyable. The Premier Pass is the most expensive. It can run 100, I think 180 up to 300 and some dollars per person per day. If you can afford it, this is probably the best way to enjoy the most within the parks with experiencing the least amount of crowds. With multi-pass that I mentioned my family had, you get to make 3 pre-selections 7 days in advance if you're on property, 3 days in advance if you're staying off property. And then after you've ridden your first one or badged into your first one, you can make your next selection. And when you make the selection, you're given a 1 hour time frame to come back and enjoy that attraction. So you have to plan it out. And that's why you get, on a bad day, you might get 4, 3, 4, 5. On a good day like we had, you might get 7 to 10. With Premier Pass, you buy it. You don't have to go into the app and make any selections. You don't get return times. You can just decide if I'm walking by Jungle Cruise and I want to ride it, get into the lightning lane, shorter wait time, get on, ride it, head on down the road. Oh, look, I'm walking by Pirates of the Caribbean, hop in the lightning lane, shorter line, shorter wait time, ride it, go on to the next attraction. Now with multi-pass or Premier Pass, you can only do each attraction once throughout the day. But again, Premier Pass, the advantage is you're not making pre-selections and given a return time. You choose your return times by entering the lightning lane queue when you get to that attraction. Now, again, that's setting budget aside. I respect the fact that we all are strapped with budget and what we can and cannot afford, or what we choose to spend our money on. And I'm not telling you have to do these. These are just possible options that will help you eliminate or alleviate some of the wait times with some of the crowds. Even waiting in a lightning lane line, and I'm going to think of Soarin'. That was probably our longest wait with multi-pass 2 weeks ago. The Soarin' line can extend a long ways. And for whatever reason, the standby line, you're in it longer, there's more people, but I feel more congested. The lightning lane, whether for multi-pass or if you had Premier Pass, fewer people, shorter wait, not as congested. So there's a little more breathing room, if you will. Just something to factor in. Again, full disclosure, I'm not an introvert. Um, this is, I'm going out on a ledge and trying to talk about something that I personally have not had to experience and go through. I want to thank my very close friend who suggested this topic for me to cover. Um, I would love to hear your feedback if there are things that you've tried and done that were successful for you to help alleviate some of the struggles of crowds or just that innate shyness with being an introvert. Um, want to help everybody and anybody that struggles with these things so that they too can go and enjoy Disney World to its fullest. But I think that's it for today with episode 47. Again, this is my Introvert's Guide to Walt Disney World. You can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube under Mike_Disney Travel. You can find me on Facebook at Mike's Magical World Vacations. These podcasts get posted on my Park Life Podcast YouTube channel, as well as on Spotify on Park Life Podcast. They go out Monday mornings at about 5 a.m. Eastern. My idea there is to give you a 20 to 30 or 40-minute podcast where maybe you're on your way to work. You can listen in, taking the kids to school, running errands, taking a morning walk, whatever it may be. I would love to work with you and your family on booking your next Disney World, Disneyland, Disney cruise, or Alani vacation. My services are complimentary to you. I do not charge you anything for my services. At the end of the day, I want you to enjoy a great experience without having to worry about the planning, the booking, when I have to do this, when I have to log in for that. Let me handle that for you. If you know somebody, you have a family member, a close friend that's a travel agent and you trust them, by all means use them. At the end of the day, the travel agents want you to have a great experience. And I want you to work with somebody that you trust. And hopefully that can be me. But if you know somebody else, I understand, would expect you to work with them. Whatever it may be, I hope the time here today has helped you for your next trip so that it's just as magical as can be. As I always like to say, I hope you have a great day and an even better tomorrow. When you wake up tomorrow, remember it's a great day to be alive. That's it for today. I will see you again next week for episode 48. Goodbye, everybody.